I'm diving into my wicked uncle's dark secret that changed our family's life forever, and I'm determined to uncover the truth behind it all. My family was always a little quirky, but we loved each other, and my uncle was the black sheep, always doing his own thing. My family's life was pretty blissful. We'd have these big family gatherings and everyone would get along, or so it seemed. We'd go on vacations together, and my uncle would always be the life of the party, but sometimes he'd say these weird comments that would make us all feel uneasy. My parents were always busy with work, but they provided for us and gave us everything we needed. We had a big house, a pool, and all the latest gadgets, but deep down, I always felt like something was off. My uncle would often take me and my siblings on these wild adventures, and we'd have so much fun, but looking back, I realized he was hiding something. As I got older, I started to notice that my uncle would often disappear for hours at a time, and when he came back, he'd be all secretive and quiet. My parents would just brush it off, saying he was working on some new business deal, but I knew that wasn't true. I'd see him talking to these shady characters, and I'd hear him whispering on the phone late at night. My siblings and I would try to stay out of his way, but it was hard, because he was always around, lurking in the shadows. My uncle's presence was always felt, even when he wasn't around, and I started to feel like I was living in a bubble, like nothing was real. I tried to talk to my parents about it, but they'd just tell me I was being paranoid, that my uncle was harmless. But I knew what I saw, and I knew what I felt, and it wasn't right. I started to investigate on my own, snooping around my uncle's room, looking for clues, and what I found changed everything. My uncle's backstory was marked by tragedy and loss. His parents had died when he was young, and he was forced to grow up too fast. He'd always been a bit of a loner, but when he met my aunt, he seemed to finally find some happiness. However, their relationship was complicated, and they'd often fight, and my uncle would disappear for days at a time. My parents would try to intervene, but my uncle would just push them away. As I dug deeper, I found out that my uncle had been involved in some shady dealings, and he'd made some powerful enemies. My uncle's relationships with his family members were complex. He'd often play the victim, and we'd all feel sorry for him, but deep down, I think he resented us for having a better life. He'd make these snide comments, and we'd all laugh, but looking back, I realized he was lashing out. My aunt would often try to defend him, but even she didn't know the full extent of his secrets. I found out that my uncle had been embezzling money from my parents' company, and he'd been using it to fund his own twisted desires. The clues led me to a storage unit on the outskirts of town, and what I found there changed my life forever. My uncle's dark secret was finally revealed, and it was more shocking than I could have ever imagined. He'd been leading a double life, and his actions had put our entire family in danger. I felt a mix of emotions, shock, anger, and sadness, and I didn't know how to process it all. My siblings were in denial. They couldn't believe that our beloved uncle could do such a thing. The revelation had an immediate impact on our family. My parents were devastated. They felt betrayed and hurt. My siblings and I were trying to come to terms with what had happened, and my aunt was trying to make sense of it all. We all felt like our lives had been turned upside down, and we didn't know how to move forward. The secret had been hidden for so long, and it had finally come to light, and it was like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders, but it was also a heavy burden to carry. The experience changed our family forever. We learned to be more vigilant, to trust our instincts, and to never ignore our gut feelings. We also learned to be more open and honest with each other, to communicate our fears and doubts. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it made us stronger and more resilient. The revelation of my uncle's dark secret was a wake-up call for our family, and it forced us to reevaluate our relationships and our priorities. If you've been through something similar, I'd love to hear your story, and if you want to learn more about toxic family members, check out my next